My grandma's beef bourguignon recipe is the best I've ever eaten. She spent her lifetime perfecting this recipe. It's packed full of tricks and tips, some unusual ones, but they all come together to make a simplified recipe with an amplified flavour. So, let's get into it. To get started, I like to get everything cut that needs to be cut. So, first up I've got 250 grams of chestnut mushrooms. I think sometimes they're also called cremini mushrooms. I like to use this variety because they've got a good flavour and they're widely available. So I'm just cutting them into quarters and trimming off any bits I don't like the look of as I go. If I had any that were smaller than this, I'd just be chopping them in half or potentially even keeping them whole. Next up, the onions. Now, these have a few names as well. I know them as pearl onions, but I've seen them sold as baby onions, small onions, pickling onions, and the list goes on. They're basically small white onions, and if you struggle to find these, then shallots will be a great substitute. And I've got around 10 here. So to get these prepped, I'm taking a tiny amount off the top, peeling off the papery layer as well as the first layer of actual onion, taking the very root end off, but being sure to keep most of it intact, and then cutting them in half through that root. So once the recipe is cooked, you'll still have chunks of onion rather than small pieces that just break down and essentially turn to mush. Next up, a couple of carrots. Now, I know this doesn't seem like much carrot, considering this recipe is going to make around 10 portions. You might be tempted to add a few more carrots, but I'm going to encourage you not to, because they will make the end dish too sweet, and it just puts all of the other flavours out of balance. So, once I've got them peeled, I'm just doing this interesting cut, which I like to do with carrots, where I just hold my knife at an angle, make a cut, roll the carrot 90 degrees, and keep making those cuts. What I'm left with are these interesting shapes. Whatever you decide to go with, just don't make the carrot slices too small. Once again, because they cook too quickly and they sweeten the recipe too much. Next up, 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to simply crush these and do a rough dice. Not too big, but not too small. And lastly, here I've got 200 grams of smoked streaky bacon. This is something my grandmother always used, and it always had to be smoked streaky bacon. Ideally sliced quite thick like this. She liked this because she got a decent sized lardon. So I'm just going to slice across that, not too small, because I want to have pieces of bacon in the end and I don't want it to disintegrate into nothing after the dish has been cooked. And that's all my prep. It's pretty straightforward considering this is such a flavourful dish. Let's get cooking. Before we get into that, let me quickly tell you about the VPN that I use, Surfshark. For me, the biggest benefit of using a VPN is the added security and the privacy online. Without a VPN, your internet activity can be tracked by ISPs, advertisers, or anyone snooping on public networks. Surfshark helps keep your data private and your browsing secure. Especially important if you ever use cafe, airport, or hotel Wi-Fi. Surfshark also helps with things like price discrimination and restricted content. Depending on where you're located, prices for flights, subscriptions, or even online stores can change. So using Surfshark, you can switch virtual locations and access the internet more freely. What really sets Surfshark apart though is the extras. Unlimited devices, more than 4,500 servers in over 100 countries, a strict no logs policy, and 24/7 customer support. They also offer Surfshark Alert, which monitors your email and notifies you if your data shows up in a breach. So, if you want a safer, more private, more flexible internet experience, check out Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/Gossork or use code Gossork at checkout to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN. It's completely risk-free with Surfshark's 30-day money-back guarantee. So, what I like about this recipe is everything happens in one pot, and I haven't seen any other recipes in my 20 years of cooking that follow this method. So I think this is the cornerstone to this being such a delicious recipe. I've got this large pan on a medium heat. I've added a tiny amount of oil just to help out with the bacon not sticking initially. And I'm just going to leave that bacon to cook and brown for a few minutes before I start to stir and move it around. Okay, so it's been around 3 minutes and the bacon is starting to get some colour around the edges. And importantly, I've got some fond forming on the base of the pan. This is the very beginning of essentially building up or layering flavours, however you want to look at it. So the next step, I'm going straight in with the onions and the mushrooms. And I'm going to keep that pan on a medium to medium-high heat. I want to get browning on all of those ingredients. Whilst that's happening, let's quickly talk about what cut of beef to use. For me, using this cut is the key to this recipe. This is a boneless shin of beef. My grandma liked using shin for 3 main reasons. It has plenty of connective tissue without being overly fatty. This makes a rich, meaty sauce. Because of their form, I can essentially treat them like steaks when I'm searing them, so I can get plenty of colour on both of the faces. This gives me a depth in flavour that I can't really recreate with diced beef. It just doesn't get the same sear. Also, because of its form, these shins will naturally separate into individual pieces of meat once they've slow cooked. So, all of these reasons combined give me a deep beefy flavour, and the prep and handling is also simplified, so it's very much a win-win situation. I've simply lightly salted them on both sides, so they're ready to use in a few minutes. Okay, back to the pan. 5 minutes later, after some occasional stirring to make sure nothing's catching too much on the base of the pan, I've got some decent browning in places. And as you can see, the onions and mushrooms have lifted a lot of that bacon fond from the base of the pan. Now I'm going in with my carrots and following them with the garlic. And I'm making sure my heat isn't too aggressive at this stage, because I don't want to burn the garlic. I'm going to keep that cooking for another minute or two, regularly stirring, once again to make sure the garlic doesn't burn. Then, once I'm happy with that and everything's smelling quite fragrant, I'm going to dump all of those ingredients into a bowl and I'm going to leave them to cool. And at this stage, just make sure the base of your pan hasn't got any bits of vegetable left over. All you want is that light fond that's built up on the base of the pan again. Pan back onto a medium to low heat, nothing too high. Okay, a touch more fat in. Beef dripping would be my go-to here if I had it. If not, then just a neutral tasting oil like I'm using here. Let that heat for a moment, then beef in. And I'm being sure not to overcrowd the pan. And you're going to see how easy these are to handle. I'm literally just treating them like steaks. I'm going to leave them to sear for a good few minutes on each side. I'm looking for deep, even browning. These shins are tough cuts of meat, so they can take a hard cook. You'll probably be in the same situation as me, where you have to work in batches. For this recipe, and me cooking these 9 shins, I had to do them in 2 batches. And this is the kind of colour I'm looking for in the end on both sides. At this point, I've created a lot of deep, rich, meaty flavoured fond on the base of this pan. This is pure flavour. Don't be scared to go this far. Just keep the heat on medium to medium low as you're searing the beef, and you'll get a fond like this. This is the kind of flavour you cannot buy. You can only create it. Talking of flavours, here's another one of my grandma's secrets, a 50ml shot of cognac. I've tried making this recipe with and without adding cognac or brandy, and there's a noticeable difference. It rounds out the flavours and gives the whole dish depth. Now, choosing the right wine is where I see a lot of people trip up when making this recipe. It's an easy mistake to make, and it can end up ruining the whole recipe. So, here's a few fail-safes that I use to choose the right wine. Firstly, if you wouldn't drink it, then don't cook with it. Second to that, for this recipe, ideally, you want to use a Bordeaux. If you can't get a Bordeaux, then you want something on the dry, oakier end of the scale, rather than sweet and fruity. I've just left the cognac on a low heat for around a minute, so it evaporates off that raw alcohol flavour. Then straight in with a full bottle of wine. Heat under the pan up to high, and I'm going to leave that to reduce by around half. Okay, so that's been reducing for around 3 or 4 minutes. Now in with 750ml of beef stock. This is somewhere you want to use a high quality brown beef stock. Once again, this will give you a rich, deep flavour. Once that pan's back up to a simmer, I'm adding something called a beurre manier. This is a very traditional French way of thickening things like stews. And it's very simple, you just whisk it in. To make this beurre manier is really easy. You just mix plain flour with softened butter. And the amounts and recipe will be linked down in the description below. Okay, with the pan simmering, I'm placing all of the beef back in, juices and all, making sure everything is submerged, then lid on and straight into my oven that's set at 120 Celsius. When it comes to this cooking, you've got a few options you can go with. My top choice would be a slow cooker. Second to that is this low and slow oven technique. And third to that, you could just keep it simmering on the stovetop. But you'd have to watch that one really closely. As for temperatures, 120 Celsius will be ready in about 4 or 5 hours. You could go as low as 90 Celsius, and I'd expect this to take anywhere between 8 and 9 hours. You could bring it up to 150, 160 maximum, and this will be ready in maybe as little as 3 hours. But if you cook it this hard, you run the risk of evaporating all of the moisture, And then you're getting into the realms where the base of the pan starts catching, you start getting a burnt flavour in the Bourguignon. So for me, 120 is the sweet spot. If I was in a rush, I would push it up to 150, 160, but I'd be watching it like a hawk. Okay, it's been around 4.5 hours. I've only had to check on the Bourguignon once during this time. So this low and slow oven technique is very hands-off. You can go and get on with your day whilst this is cooking. You can see how I've got a super deep coloured sauce, and the beef shin is fully cooked through, still just holding its shape, but it's ready to fall apart. So now at this stage is the last of my grandma's secrets. This is where she mixes in the vegetables, mushrooms and bacon that we cooked earlier. So the idea of this is that the beef gets the long, slow cook that it needs, and the carrots, onions and mushrooms get the shorter cook that they need. If everything was in the pan and cooked from the start, which is how most Bourguignon recipes are, the vegetables essentially get obliterated. They lose all of their texture and the flavour just goes too far. Also at this stage is where she puts in her aromatics. So I've got 2 bay leaves and a small bunch of thyme. And I cheat at this stage. I just put them in loose, keeping them together, and I poke them just under the surface. Okay, lid back on and back into my oven for the final hour of cooking. One hour later and this recipe is ready. So remembering where I left the bunch of thyme, I plucked that out first, along with the 2 bay leaves. And that's my grandma's beef bourguignon, served with some really simple mashed potato, and this is comfort food at its finest. The flavours are incredible now, but tomorrow they'll get even better. This recipe is enough for around 10 portions depending on how hungry you are, and it freezes very well. So make a batch, get it in your freezer, and enjoy this recipe time and time again. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. And if you want to watch something else, then go check out this video next.